Hey guys, welcome back. In this video tutorial, I want to talk about how to use Angular 6 with Angular Material Framework to design a complete login authentication system for your app. Now, if you go to the GitHub or YouTube, there are dozens of videos which talk about how to create a social auth or a complete login system for your app. The reason I decided to build my own because I couldn't find one system which actually works in most of the applications. So for example, I have an offline app which is working with CouchDB or MariaDB or MySQL, and at the same time I have an online app where I'm using Firebase or some other HTTP database or some SQL Server database, and sometimes code just doesn't work on Android or iOS. So most of the time I was having this difficulty when my one code base wasn't working with like at most of the systems. So this is why I decided to do this tutorial. Now in this tutorial I will be using Angular 6 as usual, and on the back end I will use Angularfire 2 connecting to Firestore, like Firebase new beta versions of Firestore database. So uh, one more thing, I like by end of this video I will include the descriptions to all the code and my GitHub repository, so you don't need to memorize anything here. Let's get started. But before I start, I want to quickly show you what the end results is going to look like. I have this app. I'm serving it from my another computer at the same network, at the 4200 network, and as you can see, by end of this video you'll be able to create some, anybody should be able to sign up, and if you want to go to another route or any other pages, everything will be blocked. So that means it will throw you back at the login page if you have not logged in yet, if the user has not logged in yet. So for example, so suppose you go ahead and you want to create a new account, and for example the account already exists, it should give you back an error saying user ID is already taken, and if you give a new unique user ID, it will register you right then. Second thing is, at the same time, suppose it should validate, like for example it's saying like user ID is valid but the password is not valid. So and if I give a fake user ID, it should come back and saying okay, the user ID might have been deleted. And at the same time, the same app, I have this social auth enabled, so I can validate my user with Google login or Facebook login. So as you can see right now, it's not working because the reason is my Firebase is not set up correctly. So let's go back ahead to the Firebase first. So in this app, for my online authentication, I'm using Firebase authentication methods. So as you can see, I have email password authentication enabled, Google enabled, and Facebook enabled. So now one thing I'm missing here, that I need to add an authorized domain because I'm serving this app from this domain. So I just need to add that. Now if I go back and reserve my app, okay, now let's try to log in using Google. This time it should work. Sorry, because I'm serving my app from my another computer from the same network, so this is the reason why it is little slow. Or maybe there's something is not right with my application. Okay, anyway, while we are waiting, let me just show you quickly. Let's go to the Angularfire2 over the GitHub and see how they are using the authentication. So if you go how to authenticate user your Firebase database, you will see there's a very nice documentation out there. The problem is this documentation, as you can see, it works very fine, like sign in with pop-up method. It works very well with the with web browser, but unfortunately when you deploy this app to your Android or iOS, it doesn't work very well. So for if you're using Cordova to build a Firebase authentication, so they want you to use a separate method. It's called signing with redirect. So I'll be discussing all this in my code. Okay, so let's go back and hit out to okay, sorry, my app has just come back now. So let me try to show you a demo. Now if I log in with Google here, it should go back and ask like which of my Google account I want to use. As you can see, I have a couple of Google accounts, so I will pick one of those Google accounts, and it will come back. I hope it has validated my Google account, and it will come back and it will show me a message that okay, you are logged in with my Google account. So basically this is the social auth enabled. Okay, so let's this is the app you will be building. I'll show you how to how you can use my code to build this kind of a system. And as I said, like with the description of this video, I will include a link to my GitHub repository so you can download download all the code. Okay, so let's just go directly to the code. Okay, now as you can see, usually I always create a new app, but I have stopped doing that after Angular 6. Now, good thing with Angular JSON, now after Angular 6 is I can include multiple projects in one up, in my one Angular app. So I have this Amit master here, as you can see, and I have created couple of components, a couple of new projects like my website, MNGIC, things like that. So in this case, I'll just use the the original one, because if I go to my local host, okay, see, this has come back and this is saying okay, you are authenticated. So that's it. So it comes back and it fetches back my image, and it knows my name, and this is the email, this is the name is coming from the Google Auth. Okay, so now let's go back to the localhost 4200. As you can see, this is a boilerplate code. There's nothing new to that. It's a brand new code. Okay, so let's get started. How to build this system. Now, so as you can see, the first thing I always do, check your node version, npm version, and ng version. And I hope you guys are using the most current Angular version and node versions. But it's just always a very good idea to always check your versions. Next thing is, usually, as I said, I always create a new app, but this time I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use I would rather create a new project inside my master app directory. So in this case, I'm just going to use the same directory here, src. Okay. Now the next thing is I want to create a couple of new modules like app routing modules and Elish custom material modules, and then I will be like adding those to app.modules. Now why I want to do this app routing modules? So let's go back to my GitHub repository here. Okay, and I can use the command line interface to do that, but this case I just want to show you why I want to do that. I'll just copy it over from here because it's easier. The reason I want to copy this from here, because in this app I'll be using a couple of new components like about us, login, sign up, setting, and auth guard. So I'll just copy everything from here and create a new file next to my app.module, and I'm going to say app-routing.module.ts, and I will copy all the contents from my GitHub repository here. Okay. The next thing is, don't forget to you have to include your app routing modules to your app.module. So again, I'll go back here. Let's go back to my app.module.ts here. So again, just to save the time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy everything over from here, okay, and put it into my app.module. Okay, just to save time. Otherwise, there's no there's no magic here. Everything is like same. Okay. Now let's go back to my GitHub repository where I've included all the instructions. Okay. So as you can see, I have this app routing module. Same thing, I want to include one more module, Elish custom material module, and let me show you what is that actually. So let's go back to app.module. I'm going to create a new module here, say Elish material.module.ts, okay, and I'll go back to my GitHub repository and copy this code from there. Okay. So let's go to source, and I'll show you in a minute what that is. Okay, why I created a new custom material. So actually I kept it under the share. So elish.material.module.ts. As you can see, I created a new, because I'll be using Angular material a lot. As you can see, all of this thing about us page, I'm going to use a tab here, material tab, and I want to use all the material icons. I want to use the material menu, the toolbar, everything. So this is the reason I created a new custom material module here. Okay. Okay, I'm going to hide this for a minute because I know it's going to complain a lot until all my components are built. So it's going to keep on giving me the error. So just to save that time. Okay. So let's go back and copy everything from here. Okay. Okay. Perfect. As you can see, all I have done, I have included most of the material modules. I have imported all the material modules I'll be using, because I know I'll be using a button, I'll be using a checkbox, form, dialog, tabs, progressive spinner. So I included everything. And the second thing I will be doing here, I'll be using a lot of GitHub icons. So what I did, as you can see, the material icons. So instead of using the Google material icons, some of the icons I just like hard coded these things here. And the reason I'm doing it like this, because I want to work those offline here. Okay. So let me show you what those icons are. If you go to the contact, you see these 4 icons: Facebook, LinkedIn, and GitHub, and Mail. So I just these are the icons, and I'm going to copy these icons to my asset directory, and this is what I have registered. Okay. So this is what my Elish material module looks like. Basically, it's just a very simple Angular material module imports. Okay. So let's go to the next step. Oops. Okay. Next thing is, I have to copy all of this, the images, the GitHub icons I was talking about, the different icons I was talking about, SVG icons. I have to copy this to SS directory. Next thing is, I have to create a project skeleton, like about us page, header page, footer page. Let me show you quickly what those things are. Okay. So sorry, I'm not doing a live code demo using my Visual Studio here. I would rather, because I have tested all of this code and everything is working fine. And I would rather depend on the GitHub because that's where I will be keeping most of the current documentation and files. Okay, so let's go to this one. Okay, so here you can see. Let me just quickly show you what my header files and footer look like. Okay, so it's very easy. In your footer, I'm not doing anything different. Footer is basically all is like, as you can see, there's no logic there. Okay, in footer, all I'm doing here, as you can see, I'm just keeping a copyright statement here. That's the whole purpose of the footer. It's totally up to you. If you want, you can ignore that. But it's a good idea to always put a copyright statement at footer of your app. So that's why I've done this. Okay, now let's go back to the header document. As you can see, the header, in header I have written couple of things here. So image URL, page title, and then there's some email logic here. Okay, now what this does is, image URL and page title, every page, like for example, I'm in the about us page. Now as you can see, if I go to some other page like employee page, you see that the icon changes and the heading changes. Now let me go back to the about us. See that icon is changed and heading is changed. So what I'm doing in my header.html file, okay, if I go to the header.html file, I've created a toolbar. Okay, but as you can see, this icon okay, you can see the page URL. So this icon is taking an input from the TS file. So as you can see, the page, this image URL, and then there's a page title. So my header is designed like that. So suppose I call this header from an about us page or some other page. All it does, it takes the title from there and displays is there. Okay, now let me show you one more example here. So suppose let's go to the app and let's go to the about us. component.html. So it will be very clear from here. You see, I have included this header here, and this time I'm saying my page title is about us, and I want this toolbar to include this dashboard icon. So basically this is the dashboard icon, and this is about us page. Now if I go to the employee or any other job code page, you will see this icon like this. So it totally changes depending on the page itself. Okay, so that's the whole purpose of the header.html. So let's go back to that header.html file. Okay, it's basically very simple. That's all it is doing. Then what I did, I created couple of I included a toolbar, and then I created a dummy menu. So in this menu, none of these things are working. Only about us is working, and as you can see, I included couple of the icons. Okay, so basically it's very simple. There's not a lot of logic here, but I'm hoping that if you just download it there, you can customize this as per your need. But basically it's very simple there. Okay, so that's what header does in my app. Okay, now let's go back to that next thing. Next thing is, now it's time to include the Angularfire2, because I know I'll be using Angularfire2, and I'll be using Firebase database. So as I was showing you, first thing is very important that you have all this social auth enabled in your Firebase app. Okay, so I have email, password, I have Google, and I have Facebook, these three enabled, and make sure that you include all the authorized domain to your domain list. That's all you need from the Firebase perspective. Okay, and then next thing is, then you have to install the Firebase and Angularfire2. Okay, and then there are a couple of Cordova plugins you need to install. Okay, let me tell you where it's coming from. Okay, so if you go back to that GitHub repository, I think I closed it somewhere here. So if I go to Angularfire2 GitHub repo, okay, and then if I go to my Firebase Authentication, and the reason I'm doing it again, because I'm not using the sign in with pop-up method, because I know this method only works on web browser, but I want this method to work on a mobile device. So this is the reason I am going to choose this setup Firebase Authentication with Cordova. Now in this Cordova, if you go through this documentation, you need to install all of these Cordova plugins. So basically in the code, this is what I'm doing here. Okay, now let's go back here. So as you can see, I have to install all of this plugin over there. Okay, so sorry, I'm mixing. There are two different blocks I have written, so I would rather like always trust this GitHub repository. Okay, so here you do the npm install Firebase and Angularfire2. Okay, then basically just include all of this, import to your app.module file. Let me show you where that is. So go to the app.module, and actually I just already did that. So this is what I'm talking about, like include all of this Angular Firestore and Firestore auth modules to your app.module file. Okay, next thing is you have to depending on your Firebase setting, you have to set up this environment here. Okay, now there are a couple of more components I want to talk about. One is the setting page and the auth guard and backend service. Now what is the setting page does? So for example, once I'm logged in, I want user to land somewhere. This is a setting page. So basically right now it's not doing much, but here at least bare minimum I want to give a logout method here. That's the bare minimum you need to have on your setting page. Now let me show you what my setting page looks like. So again, guys, I'm not doing a live code demo here, but I want you to you should be able to download everything, and it should work as is. So basically it's very simple. All I'm doing here, again, as you can see, included a header which shows, okay, show me the account circle, like account circle icon here, and the page heading should change to settings. Okay, next thing is I want a logout method here. So all this, if you go to the settings.component.ts, what this logout does, basically all it does, it logs you out from your if you're from your social login or whatever login method you have used, it will log you out. Okay, again, all of these things are written into a service. Now let's go back to this one. So as you can see, I have included two different services. One is for auth guard, other is for backend. Let me walk you through those. Now if I go to the app, go to the services, you will see two different services. Backend service, again there are too many codes written out there, but basically as you can see, the login method and logout method. So as you can see, logout method, basically all it does is af auth.sign out. It will sign you out from your Firebase database. Okay. Now I will come back to this backend in 1 minute, backend and auth guard, because there is a lot of majority of my code is written over there, and I want to walk you through all the details. But before I do that, let's quickly finish two more pages: login page and sign up page. Okay, so create two new components: login page and sign up page. Again, you can copy those as is from my GitHub repository. Let's go back, shared, login, and as you can see, sign up page and login page. Okay, again those are very, very simple. All they are doing is, like, sign up page has a form which user can use to create a new account here. Okay, all it does is changes, as you can see. Let's go to the sign up form.html. I have included a nice header which says sign up, and I have included like fiber new material icon here. Next thing is, there are a couple of error messages I have included based on the kind of error it gets, but basically it's a very, very simple form. Okay. So now let's go back to the signup.component.ts. All it does, basically on submit form, it goes and it calls a method called create user, and if there is an error, it just catches those error and shows it at the front page, at the sign up page here. Okay, again I'll show you, I'll go to the details what this create user method does. Okay, but for now, like, let's assume this sign up method does what this sign up signup.component.ts file. Okay, and this method, let's just assume that it works. It creates a user on the backend, and if it doesn't, then it comes back with the error. Okay. Next thing is the login method. Login method again. Let's go back and I will show you what this login method is. Login.component.html is. Okay, so basically all is doing, it is included a very nice looking form where user is given an option to put email and password. And second thing is, I have included the ng social auth. Like, there are two chips I have included, one for the Google login, one for the Facebook login. Both, what it does, it creates a login, it calls a method, and it passes a variable called FB or Google. Okay, again as you can see, it's very cleverly I have wrapped these two buttons. As you can see, see that login with Facebook and login with Google, I have wrapped those things in a variable called social auth. Now let me tell you what that is. So for example, you are working on this app, and this web app is is supposed to work on MySQL, and it's for an offline app. So if it's an offline app, there is no need of these two buttons. Okay, so how to control these things? So what I have done, next thing is, I'll show you in one, okay, that's the next step. Let's go to the environment.ts file and environment.prod.ts file. So I want to show you what my environment file looks like. So, okay, as you can see, this social auth. Okay, now where is the social auth? Let me show you. I have created an environment file. Okay, okay, shared. Oops. So take a look at my environment files. So in my environment files, as you can see, social auth enabled equals to true. Now if I make it a false, so for example, I'm working, I know this app is for offline only, so everything I can control from one file. So in my environment.ts file, if I just put it a false, it will not show up. So that's how you can control your app look and feel from one file. So, and one more thing I want to mention. So for example, so let's go to this one. As you can see, in contact button, there's a Facebook, LinkedIn, GitHub, or mail icon. So suppose obviously you will have your own Facebook account and LinkedIn account. You don't want to use mine. So all you need to do, go to this environment file and change the links here. So it's as easy as that. So I do not like hard coding anywhere in my app. Even all of these email icons, everything, I put those into the environment file. So good thing is, you can download this code as is. All you need to do, change everything from your, from here, and everything, just like put your Facebook links here, LinkedIn links here, and it should work for you as well. Okay, so now let's go back to that login page I was showing you. So let's go to that app, shared, login. So as you can see, login.component.cs. So this .social.auth. See, if environment.social.auth enabled, then social auth is true. So that means go and read from the environment files, and if you say social auth is enabled, then this, just show this social links. Otherwise, don't even show those links. Okay. The same thing with the email icons and everything I was talking about here. Okay. See, it's you download all of those things from your environment.files here, and then you just use those in your system. Okay. Now let's go to the at the last piece. Now let's cover two different services here. All the magic you will see is everything is in the service. Okay, so let's go to the services. I'll cover the auth guard service here. Basically very simple. All I'm doing is saying, okay, if AF auth state, that means if the user is auth state is enabled, that means is the Firebase is telling me, okay, if this auth state is not false, it is returning something. Now user then you should take the users to other page. Otherwise, just throw the user back to the login page. All this is doing it, all this code is doing is this. And then the next thing is, you take this auth guard and you go to your app.routing.module here. Oops, where did I put those things here? Okay, and as you can see, my settings page, I am activating this auth guard here. Okay, so basically that's as simple as that. That's what that's all what this auth guard is doing here. Okay, now let's go to the backend service here. Now, main thing is how I'm creating the user and how I am signing up a user. So again, when I create a user, as you can see, the sign up page, it gives you a user ID which is in form of an email, and there is a password. So basically, as soon as the user clicks the create user from the sign up page, what it does, it says, okay, it tries to figure it out, okay, that you are not, what's your environment is. So suppose I say my environment is Firebase, and then execute this code. If your environment is SQL, then you can rewrite your code here. Again, sorry guys, I cannot you cannot write a magic code work with multiple databases, but at least you can try to reduce the number of functions you will be using for different code base. So there's no magic word here. Okay, so basically it's as simple as that. So if you want to use SQL or CouchDB, you have to put all you can do, set up those flags in your environment file, and then you write your app specific code here. So in this case, for example, I'm using it for Firebase. So I am going to do create user with email and password, and it all it does, it uses the AF auth create user with email and password method. So again, if this method will give you and throw an error if the user ID is already taken or the password is not right, it will throw an error, and you have to catch that error in sign up value form and show that appropriate error here. Second magic is login. So same thing, as you can see in my login page, I'm creating, whenever a user logs in, okay, I'm using one unique method. Okay, again, you can create 3 different methods because there are 3 different methods a user can sign in here, using an email and ID and password, using a Facebook, or using a Google. So what I've done, instead writing 3 different methods, I just wrote one method, and I'm saying, okay, login type and form data. So what is this one? So for example, so let's go to let me show you login.html, then it will make more sense. So in login.html, so suppose a user clicks on a login with Google button. So here I'm saying login and passing the Google. If the user clicks on the Facebook, login, and then it's FB. And if the user submits this form, all I'm saying email, and the second parameter I'm passing is like form data, which is the actual value of email ID and password. Okay. Now let's go to the login.component.ts. As you can see, it takes one login method here. Okay, and it says based on the login type and form data. If the form data, that means the user has included the user ID and password, that means he is using an email ID and password authentication method here. So obviously if form data is not blank, then call the method where it says sign up with email and password. Otherwise, just do a regular authentication sign up. Okay, so let's go see. As you can see, Facebook, so everything is in this backend service, and it's using the login method from the backend service here. Okay, so now let's go to the backend service again. Services, backend service. Okay, so as you can see, if there is a form data, that means if there is a user email ID and password user has submitted, to use this method. That means sign in with user email and password. If not, then check what kind of login type user is using. If the login type is Facebook, then call this. Don't even call. I'm using this new auth provider. I created a new variable here. It says like use the Facebook auth provider. If it is Google, then use the Google auth provider. And next thing is very simply call the Firebase auth method and sign in with the redirect and pass this firebase.auth that your social auth provider. So if the user clicks on Google sign in with Google button here, all it's going to do is going to say sign in with redirect, and it will say it will pass this variable here. That means firebase.auth.google.auth provider. Very simple. Okay, and once it comes back, okay, there's another trick. So once it comes back, okay, because this is one behavior you have to be aware of. See, when I click on the Google or Facebook auth, it redirects. That means it's going somewhere else, and it comes back. When it comes back, it comes back to your localhost.4200 or wherever you are serving. So this has to be your beginning page, and by the time it comes back, it has lost that code, so it doesn't know where to go. So in this case, so for example, this is my opening page. That means like by default login page is my initial page. So let me show you the code on the login page. Okay, as you can see, I have implemented an on init. So on init, what it does, and there's an after view init. So for example, this goes and says, okay, give me the auth status. And what is this auth status is? Auth status is, it says, okay, now go get this redirect login page, because you know this came back. Sorry, it's kind of little difficult to explain, but you know, if you go to this their documentation, this says, okay, you have to, instead of using sign in with pop-up method, you have to use this sign in with redirect. But in case, you have to read this statement very, very carefully. To handle the case where the app activity is destroyed before the sign in operation completes, call get redirect results when your app loads. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm calling this get redirect results because you know my app is just reloaded here. So see, so redirect login page here. All it did, it you know, it just recorded that. Now let me show you what this redirect login method is. Okay, so let's go back to this services, backend service. Okay, see that redirect method is very simply, all it's doing is using this get redirect result method. Okay, as what they have mentioned here. Very simple. Okay. So I kept it very, very simple because I know this is the code. It was a little challenging when I was implementing this in the Cordova. But you know, this thing, what I'm showing you here, I have tested it and it is working on the most of the browsers, and also it is working if I don't want to use the Firebase, but you know, you must use the Firebase authentication. If not, then the same code you can use. All you need to do, create your own signup method, create user method, and instead of pointing to the Firebase, you have to use some other method. Or if you want some other authentication, you can use that as well. The good thing with Firebase is everything is so handy. It's like it's readily available. The documentation is very good, and I was able to create those users using Firebase authentication. So again, I hope this video helped you guys. Sorry that it was a very long tutorial. There are a lot of things to cover. The good thing is I have everything in this GitHub repository, and if something changes, definitely I will come back and make corrections to this video here. So I hope you like this video. Stay tuned. If you get into any issues, just please feel free to create a new issue here, and I'll be happy to resolve it for you. Thank you very much.